What's up, everybody? Paul here from the Hoops Crew, and it is round 8 Nuff of the week time. Today, we are taking a look at an old friend, someone who, if you're a Cat supporter, you've had the greatest level of affection for over the course of the last few years, someone who you've absolutely never suggested is biased, one-eyed, and has an agenda against the Cats. I'm, of course, talking about David King. David King has put his foot in it with a lot of his comments, I believe, off the back of the Geelong 3-point victory against the Pies. A lot of misinformed, illogical comments that I just cannot stand for. And we're going to talk about what he did, what he said, why it's a problem, after a word from our sponsor.
The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist. Visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Phone them on 035 222 2244 or visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the offer code GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout to get 20% off your next online purchase.
Thank you, Cyril Cook Florist, as always, for your ongoing support of the Hoops Crew and all we get up to. Now, I want to jump into David King's comments here, what has aggravated so many, and why I'm now finally jumping on the bandwagon. I must say, for the longest time, I've seen the comments on social media. I've seen people saying he's biased, he's got it in for the Cats, he's this, he's that. And I hadn't 100% bought into it. I still don't know if I 100% have, but we'll talk about that in greater level shortly. It's just this overwhelming tsunami of stupidity, misinformed and misguided comments that David King has been making, specifically around the Geelong Football Club, that has earned him the ire of Cats fans and now of myself as well. Obviously, a Cats fan, but of myself as well. And so I'm going to project here, because I can't show the footage. It's going to get copyright struck. I'm going to cross over to the Raw here, who've kind of pulled out some of the key quotes that David King made during this match. First one, speaking almost immediately after the game, he said, "One man stood between Collingwood and victory. I should say 5 men, 4 in green and 1 with number 35, which is obviously a reference to Paddy Dangerfield. It's a factor. They got 14 of the last 18 free kicks. I have to say it, and I've talked about the umpiring a lot this year. He actually said, I hate to say it. It's a negative starting point. I get that. But Collingwood were hard done by in the last 12 minutes of football. There's absolutely no other way of looking at it, at this. The umpiring has had a massive impact on tonight's game. King was particularly aggrieved by Hill's, so that's Bobby Hill's free kick. It's always been where the tackle stuck, it can slide down. If the tackle starts at the hips, it can move down, he said, which is absolutely wrong. David King, the problem here is that you actually somehow don't know what you're talking about, and you're a paid professional in this industry. Just like any tackle that starts on the arm and slides up over the neck. Now, of course, if it's a shrug, that's going to get potentially put at risk of not being called. But any tackle that maybe starts at the arms and just slides up around the necks and takes the player, and how that's a free kick, the same idea applies. You might tackle the person around the hips, maybe you tackle them around the thighs, but if that drops below the knees or to the knees or below, like Bobby Hills did, that is a free kick. Now, I do understand that it was in the heat of the moment, that point of the game, I could very easily, and I did say this during my initial reaction video, I could see the decision going the other way. And I wouldn't be super aggrieved if it was. It'd be annoying. And maybe it comes back to cost us the game. And that would be infuriating, considering it's a technically wrong decision. But I could understand how you could come to that conclusion as an umpire. But to say, to make comments like this based on incorrect information is absolutely ridiculous to me. And again, for someone who is paid to be in this industry, who has a great deal of knowledge about this game, for him to make comments like that drives me mad. Let's continue on. Jay Clark was part of the same conversation. He spoke about it a little bit as well. And he said, I know the AFL tick it off, but it's in the spirit. But in the spirit of the game, I think that's been a rundown tackle every time, except for this time. Jack Rewalt agreed that the touch call. So this is the other one, could be really controversial. And let's kind of hit that one on the head at the time. Mark Blitzarve said it was touched. A boundary umpire said it was touched. The goal umpire's decision was that he believed it was touched. And whilst the footage, as many have said, is fairly inconclusive, You've got 3 people on field who are all saying the same thing here. You go with it. Just like in the cricket where they use these sorts of systems. There's margin for error. There's umpire's call. There's those sorts of things. And that's what we've got here. Whether it's right or it's wrong, I guess remains to be seen. I trust Mark Blitzarves. He hasn't really given anyone any reason to doubt him and whether he'd tell a lie. Maybe he is. I don't know. But he hasn't given anyone reason to doubt him. And then you've got others who also attest the fact that it was touched. That's good enough for me. But not good enough if you're David King, of course. King also, and this is the bit that really pissed me off, because this is a professional conduct thing here, and he knows full well how Mark Blitzarves can answer. King even confronted Cat star Mark Blitzarves about the umpiring in a post-match interview. Now, Blitz, I'm not trying to get you in trouble. Don't talk about specifics, but can you feel when the umpires are favouring you and when things are falling your way? Did you feel it tonight or in that last 10 to 15 minutes, he asked. What? Fucking what? What are you talking about, David? Now, I'm not saying that Geelong didn't maybe get the rub of the green through that period. Maybe they did get 14 of the last 18 free kicks in the match. Like, I'm not saying the stats are wrong, but what you are saying in that comment is that you believe that umpires would favour one team over the other. To have the rub of the green, to have some luck, for mistakes to get made that favour you. That's all one thing. To say when umpires are favouring you is crazy to me. And this is where I started to go, maybe the people who've been saying he's biased against Geelong for the longest time are actually onto something here. Maybe this bloke has a shitty agenda against the Cats. He's got some history that is kind of plaguing him, bothering him. It's causing issues. And I've never, really dug deep into the career of David King. I saw him play football at the time. I was still young, but I saw him playing AFL football, and I can't remember any massive altercations between him and Geelong. So I don't know if there's some sort of AFL playing professional history there, or kind of negative history there between the two clubs, and whether that's underpinning it. But I would also like to hope that anyone who is employed, Fox Footy, Channel 7, representing Triple M, K-Rock, whoever it happens to be, and the K-Rock guys, they're biased. But in the moment, you call it as you see it, you be black and white, these are the rules, and this is how they're interpreted. Or when you're in an interview like that, and even if you believe that there's been some sort of criminal justice, criminal act performed by the umpires in this case, and this team got screwed, you don't put the player in a position where they've got to respond to that, because you know that Mark Blitzarves can't say, yeah, it's great when they give us all the free kicks. And you're not going to get him to say, oh, no, look, you're right, 100% right. They cheated and we benefited from it. Like, what? Show some respect for Mark Blitzarves. Show some respect for the audience. Show some respect for your employers. Show some respect for yourself, David. That wasn't okay. And it was in that moment that I started to go, I can see what people are talking about. I can see why they're frustrated. I can see why they're concerned. And it's now stepped beyond a point of using some stats to go, I've got concerns about a club. I will note, just in case David King's watching and he's thinking I'm just trying to dunk on the bloke, or some David King defender is all over it. He did tip the Cats going into this game. He believed the Cats were going to win, so I don't think there was some sort of and they're great for my tips and they ruined my tips. I don't think there's anything around those sorts. But he did tip Geelong to win this game. So I don't think there's any sort of strange, untoward thing there. I just don't get it. And as we wrap up the quote here, Mark Blitzarves said, no, not really, to be honest. The game's pretty hot and there's whistles going all the time, and I just try to get on with it. I just look at whichever way the umpire's pointing and I run the opposite direction. Some games the ball bounces for us. Some days decisions don't go our way. I haven't seen or thought too much about it for the last quarter or so. King then continues to poke and pry. You're smiling a lot, Blitz. Like, be professional, please. I know you've got a mate who works for SEN, Kane Corns, who doesn't mind some inflammatory comments and trying to rustle up some conversation like that. But you're not that individual. You're not trying to be that. You're just wildly misinformed. And this is where my other piece of content here comes into the mix. And I've got to get my screen sharing going here. We're going to quickly pull this up and talk about it a little bit here. Razor Ray Chamberlain, former AFL umpire, friend of the Hoops crew. He's been on Behind the Play. We love Razor. Spoke about David King specifically and others who make misinformed comments about AFL umpiring. And I just want you to listen. And David, if you've not listened to it, I'm sure you have. But if you haven't, just catch it again, okay?
The Hawthorn crowd was up here. Just make this our last one and walk us through this.
Yeah, so in this instance, I talked about many tributaries making the Nile in relation to Kingy's statement at the front.
Mark Blitzards again, funnily enough.
2003 when Peter Bell felt the same. So in this instance here, Blitzards has had no prior opportunity. He's legally tackled. So since 1948, all he is required to do is attempt to handball or kick. That's it. He doesn't have to successfully do it. He's just got to make a genuine attempt to handball or kick, and you can see that he does that. So because he's had no prior opportunity, that suffices. So it's not a free kick for holding the ball. Kingy, who is one of my favourites, he talked about him being red hot on dropping the ball. That isn't a rule, and it hasn't been for 80 years. Okay? So that is a perfect implementation of the laws of the game as the umpires are being instructed. So you've got areas where they're making blues that they can clean up themselves. And then I think we've got some noise where others need to potentially educate themselves as well if they're going to espouse a virtue.
All right, shoot one back.
Misinformed and misguided. Thank you very much, Razor Ray Chamberlain, for providing that final shot in this conversation about David King and his ignorance. David King, you're enough for the week this week. Now, I will say, David, you're someone whose brain I would love to pick. And if you happen to be watching this, if your management team happens to be watching this, I'd love to have you on the Hoops Crew content, get you on Behind the Play, talk about a wonderful AFL career and a hugely successful commentary one as well. You've done some incredible things, and I have a great deal of respect for you in terms of what you've achieved over the years. I do want to pick your brain about this kind of, I guess, perception that is either right or wrong that others have had for a long time that I'm starting to cotton on to a little bit now. I'd love to pick your brain a little bit about that and hopefully put it in place. As in, have a really good, grounded conversation as to how we got here. And, you know, is a perception issue of us, the Geelong fans, stung because you're talking ill about our club? Or is it something else? I'd love to have that conversation. So, David, if you happen to be watching, please reach out. We'd love to have a chat. For now, though, I hope everyone enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, share the video with your friends, give it a like, get the word out there about Nuff of the Week and all of our Hoops Crew content. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more, check out our Patreon. There is a 7-day free trial period. You can check out all of the stuff that we offer there. And if you like it, the extended content, the early access content, and the exclusives will be delivered directly to your email for nothing more than $5 or $6 a month. That's the cost of a coffee in this current market. Please consider checking it out. We've got 37 people already patrons, and that number is growing. Thank you all for your support. You'll find me on socials at Paul James Games. That's Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. You'll find the Hoops Crew at the Hoops Crew. And until next time, remain Geelong strong, everyone. David King, you're enough. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you later.